The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, a brand new baby solar system, and we'll watch its birth with Mr. Universe Salman Hamid.
But first, 'twas the day before elections, and all through the 4 counties, everyone was watching the contested mayoral races.
Including us, which is how we realized that we almost missed one, perhaps the closest in proximity to us.
Well, we can't have that. So, today we're speaking with both candidates for mayor in West Springfield.
And we'll start with the person seeking to have his job renewed, incumbent Mayor William C. Reichelt. We have been covering all the contested mayoral races in the 413, and we have finally made it to our last 2 competitors.
Yep.
And given that tomorrow is election day, both of them will be on today's show, so that one of you does not have a fairer advantage as the last impression that is being made while people are going to the polls on election day.
Before or after they have gone to the polls.
That's right.
Hopefully before.
Right,
Before.
preferably before.
And we are joined by the current mayor of West Springfield, Mayor William C. Reichelt, who is a former town attorney. He was elected to his first term as mayor on November 3rd, 2015, and was sworn in on January 4th, 2016.
Mayor Reichelt has been recognized as the first 4-year term mayor, as well as the youngest in West Springfield history, and he's seeking re-election tomorrow. I think my first question is, what changed in the term as the time got longer from 2 years to 4 years? There aren't that many towns left that still have 2-year terms for their mayor.
So I was the attorney for both Agawam before I came to West Springfield and the attorney for West Springfield. We had tried to change it from 2 to 4 over in Agawam, and it wasn't successful, but one of the first things I wanted to do when I became mayor was change it from 2 to 4, because a 2-year term, it's like you're always running. You have like 1 year to govern pretty much, and then you're running again. So you don't have a lot of time. Everything becomes political. You can't really set long-term plans and stick to them because it's a revolving door. And we had that we became a city in 2000, and Mayor Gibson was a mayor for 11 years because his first term was 3 years. And then we had Mayor Neffinger, Mayor Sullivan, and then me. And it was, even department heads were getting a little tired of like, okay, you have all these plans. Like, are you going to be here in 5 years to see it through or not? So we put it on the ballot in 2016. 2016 was one of the highest turnouts ever. That was Trump's first term. We had across the board high turnout, and it passed 60-40. And it was set to take effect the following year in 2017. The whole idea was that it wasn't for me, it was for whoever won the 2017 election. I ran unopposed in 2017, so my term went from 2 years to 4 years. And all future mayors will go 4 years, which I think makes the most sense, because even that following January, when I sat down with department heads to talk about capital plans and 5-year long-term planning, they were all like a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, so you're going to be here for 4 years. We can have a plan now, and we'll see it through.
Your opponent seems like they would like to go back to the former style of 2-year mayoral terms, even if he were to win as mayor. And Daniel O'Brien is current at-large city councilor, who you'll hear later this hour on the show, and we'll certainly ask him about that as well. Is that feasible with the charter the way that it stands? You were a city attorney. I know it's a charter move to try to change the mayoral term, or would it have to just go back onto the ballot?
It would have to go back onto the ballot. And again, a lot of the stuff, I don't know why he wants to take us backwards, but he's been on the council 10 years. He did vote against it back in 2016, but he's never brought another motion up to change it. It's not the mayor's decision. It's the council's decision to bring a resolution forward. It's a home rule charter, so bring a resolution forward that they vote on, send to the legislature. The legislature sends it back to put on our ballot for the electorate to decide. And again, it wasn't close. It was 60-40 back in 2016. From folks I talked to, they don't want to see it go backwards because they know it's a revolving door. You see it in other communities that are still 2 years. I think Chicopee, Westfield, and Agawam are the 2 years that are left around here. They all want to change it to 4 years. They're all in different stages of trying to change it. But I think it's the right way for, regardless of whether it's me or anyone, you want steady leadership that's going to set a goal and then see it through, not just someone who's looking to top off their pension on their way out.
You are coming up on a decade of being mayor as the youngest mayor of West Springfield. We're speaking with Mayor William Reichelt, who's running for re-election tomorrow. And we had been talking about mayoral terms. How long do you want to be mayor?
I love this job. I could see another 20 years, you know, I won't even be 60 yet by then. So still younger than I think all the other mayors, including my opponent. So I really enjoy it. It is a blast. The first 10 years I look at as setting up the foundation, ideally for the next 10 and beyond, because it takes time to get in. And I always say I was, a lawyer in Agawam. I've been involved at some level, whether the planning board, community preservation, since my early 20s, then the lawyer, essentially kind of chief of staff for Mayor Sullivan. And even doing that and then becoming mayor was a bit of a learning curve. Like, I have a background in law, I got an MBA, I procurement certified, all that stuff. But then being an advisor and even helping out in that role, and then to be in that role and to be the decision maker is a big change. And it takes time to figure that all out. It takes time to learn all the levers of government and everything that if you want to do that, here's how you do it. So I feel like these first 10 years has just been the beginning, and I hope people in Westside see it that same way. We've done so much. I keep saying we won Rita Rave's Best Time to Live in 3 years in a row. So I really just
love saying that.
I do.
By the way. I win the Valley Advocate Readers Poll, and I don't give a crap. But Mayor Reichelt loves that Rita Rave.
I got all 3 of those awards right on the back of my desk.
Okay, dude.
Monty, if you were running for office, you'd be saying that too.
I
bet I
feel
would.
like that's true.
I've literally never mentioned on the radio that I've won the Valley Advocate Readers Poll, but until now. Context is key. I'm assuming, Mayor Reichelt, and maybe I shouldn't, are you opposed to Donald Trump running for a third term in 2028?
Yeah, because the charter, or not the charter, I keep thinking about Westside. The Constitution says you can't. So our charter has no limits of how long I could run.
But is the only reason you think Trump shouldn't run in 2028 because of the Constitution? Or is there a natural time limit where we say this is the end of this time and it's somebody else's turn now? And if,
yeah, I do.
And is
I
it
agree.
different on city politics than it is in national politics? And if so, in your opinion, why?
I do agree with that. And I would say it would be different a bit in national or in local politics. In national politics, it's more like a show. You bring this whole entourage with you, and there's these, ideally, you come for a decade and you accomplish what you set out to accomplish. Whereas at the local level, I have a great team, but it's kind of just me that comes onto the stage. And it takes a lot longer, I would say, a lot of times at a local level because everyone's more involved. Where at the national level, it's kind of like its own system and setup, and you have Congress that comes in and you kind of see these ideas that have been, even though you've been there for 10 years, Trump's been there for longer in the sense of it's been 10 years. He was out of office, but they still talked about, he was still the show for the 4 years that Biden was in office. And even people with the media level, it's so talked about that everyone's kind of done with it, regardless of who it is. Or at the local level, I don't think I'm on the media that much. So, aside from those 3 Rita Raves wins, but...
Keep bringing it back. Keep bringing it back.
Keep bringing it back.
Keep bringing
I
it
do think
back.
people have more of a tolerance for, I don't want to say more the same, but the same person as long as they're moving the community in the right direction at a local level, because they're the ones that are going to the soccer championship games, or the ones that are at the PTO meetings after hours, they're at the senior center breakfast. They're relatable and you know them. Whereas at a national level, it's more of a personality that you don't know the real person.
Yeah.
And just none of us are going to get to know them. We're just not at that level.
We're speaking with Mayor William Reichelt, who is running for re-election on Election Day. Tomorrow we'll speak with his competitor momentarily.
Let's talk about schools. Make your case for consolidating some of the schools in West Springfield.
Because your competitor would like to leave some of the neighborhood-based smaller schools open and continue to support them. One of them.
One school.
And that school was slated to close before basically community action came forward before the city and was like, please don't close it. There's been a pause on that motion. But along the same lines, having those schools open requires a certain amount of growth, requires a certain amount of population of children going to them. And consolidation is one of the ways that other communities are looking at keeping those schools open and keeping them vibrant. So make your case for consolidation.
I would say, it's consolidation in the sense of, like, Mittenegg is the one school that at a high had 160 students. When we started looking at consolidation 2 years ago, it had just over 100. And we, as a community and district, are at an inflection point when it comes to like our enrollment. But as you mentioned, it's not unlike any other of the communities in Western Mass. We're seeing, I'm a trustee at Westfield State University, and we talk about that same kind of inflection point that we're at, where there's just a huge drop-off coming and graduating high school seniors that would even be eligible to go to college. And that whole demographic and life choices are all changing, which is a separate conversation. But when we see that at that level of less high school seniors graduating, it means that there's less kids in K through 12 generally. And when we come from a community that maybe when I graduated 20 years ago, we had over 450 kids in our class. Now a high is in the high 200s. So we have the ability to educate a lot more students in the buildings that we have, but we don't have those students, which means there's no funding coming from the state, which means we have smaller, in some sense, class sizes, but we're paying a lot more money for that. And it's always this time of year in election season that we're talking about taxes. And if we want to either hold the line or it's a harder goal to like really meaningfully cut taxes unless you're cutting services. But if we want to hold the line on where we are, we need to look at cost savings across the community. And when the schools are 50% of our budget and when within that staffing is 80%, we need to look at how we're filling our buildings. And if it means, taking a building offline, especially when the federal government announces the $3 billion cut to aid to the state, everyone in the legislature is telling me it ain't going to be a good year next year. Mm-hmm. We need to look at a local level to see how we can save money. We don't want to lay anyone off. We don't want them to lose their jobs, but there's natural attrition every year. People either leave for a different district for whatever reasons or they retire, and we're able to take some staffing offline to match that up. And while Mittenegg is a beloved school, it was the first school that I read in at for Dr. Seuss Day, Read Across America, back in 2016. And it was fun. All the kids wanted back then. I was like, oh, cool, the new young mayor. They all wanted my autograph. I was signing their agendas back when they had agendas. Now they all have computers. But there's a lot of community there. And there still is more conversations to be had in the coming months. But I would say one thing, what we're looking at as a school committee is costs. And I think it's important to look at costs for the whole community, because if we want to keep that school open, it would mean adding $3 to $4 million to the budget, and if we wanted to make repairs, it would be 20 to 25 million. And when we look at the needs in the other schools, and then not just the schools but the community as a whole, I question whether or not that's a wise investment going forward, because it is a school that was essentially built shortly after the Civil War ended. So when we look at those facilities versus like a Coburn school that just opened, the new Fawsey that we're building, the 21st century schools that we can offer, I think, and also the state pays 80% of that reimbursement, I think that's a better use of our dollars going forward than it is to kind of live in the past in some ways and not have a meaningful conversation around the cost. Because I'm all for, like, if we want to pay that as a community, then that we can do that. But when I hear from everyone how expensive how high their tax bill is, and in comparison to other communities, we're lower, but still, to any person you say they're on a fixed income, any increase is a lot. But then to say we want to keep the school open, but also we're going to lower it, it's just, the math doesn't work out. The math doesn't math. It's disingenuous, in my opinion.
We're speaking with the mayor of West Springfield, William Reichelt, who's running for re-election tomorrow. And your competitor, who is a former police officer, is wanting to keep this particular school open and to bond for it, to keep it open, but is opposed to your plan to bond for a new police department, which is odd.
Yeah, it is odd. I look forward to listening to his answer on this.
He will be on next. Tell us about why you think that is an appropriate use of city funds and to bond for a new police department. Why does the city of West Springfield need a new police department, and when this former police captain says they don't?
I also want to say, like, bonding isn't magical. Like,
right.
It's just like on a lower level, it's like us using our credit card, getting the bill and paying it.
Yeah.
We do have bonding capacity. We did it for the high school. We did it for Coburn. We try to be mindful when we do that, because when we first go out, taxes spike. We put money aside to ease that all out, but you can't bond for everything, because then all of a sudden you're going to have this massive bill that you got to pay. Mm-hmm. And when I talk about building a new police station, why that's important, and he knows this because he was a former police captain, that ours is very outdated. When I started 10 years ago, we were one of the, I think, 2 communities in the state that still had a police station inside their town hall. We're probably the last one at this point. Like, it just doesn't, they've far outgrown the space. We moved into that town hall back in the late 70s. The community itself has changed vastly since the 70s. We've been Riverdale Road, like all those shopping plazas that were just fields back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So the motels, then they weren't there. So the community has changed a lot, and unfortunately our facilities for our police department, the people that we ask to go out every day and put their lives on the line for us, has not changed. And now we have at one point we've had shifts of majority female. They have no shower facilities, no locker rooms, no bathrooms for them. So they come in and they change in a closet. And, even the locker room facilities for the men isn't great. It's in the basement where we've had some issues in the past. And in a lot of ways,
mold issues we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's been sewer breaks. We've had it cleaned up. But again, it's when your sewer, do you really want to go down there and change?
It smells like a locker room in here.
Beyond the assumptions that come with making a facility and not putting other bathrooms in that, regardless of the fact that gender is a spectrum, not having separate facilities for
no,
folks.
really any facilities. There's and we put some money into it to make it better as kind of like a Band-Aid, understanding that we're looking for a building to build a new station in. And we have that building now with the Walgreens that's right next door to the existing town hall, which honestly I think is a home run. I want to keep municipal services all in the downtown to, one, benefit the downtown with folks going to Tandem or Celery Stock, whatever, for lunch, but also just has everything right there. Again, it goes to, are we going to put a lot of money into this older building? We can renovate the space that they have to bring our school department back over, bring more municipal services right into the downtown for shorter money than it would be for the specialized services that would go into building a police station. So like the cells, the drug rooms, the evidence lockers, all that stuff. It makes more sense to do it in a new facility and put it all on its own and harden that facility so that it has the security measures that it needs. The town hall we're in was always an office building, so it makes sense as an office building, not as a specialized station.
But does it make sense, and your opponent's critique of this move too, is that if the place is unhealthy to be in, town hall / the police department, why is it okay for the town hall to still be there, but the police department gets a brand new building? Why not move all of that town hall to the Walgreens building?
No, there's not enough space. But the town hall as a whole is not unhealthy. And there are mold issues that they're in the basement, so we don't use those rooms anymore. There's other areas that we clean up. But the town hall building, it's just old. It's not unhealthy for the rest of the building to be in there. And I think my opponent glazes over the fact that we don't have the separate bathroom facilities, the locker rooms, all those other facilities that are needed, and there's no space in the town hall to make that happen. There's no space. We've looked at areas in the basement we move around, but then when you have a building next door that we could modernize and make into which regardless in the long term, we would want a one specialized, like the fire department all has fire buildings. Mm-hmm. But now we have the police department that has, they have patrol on one floor, they have detectives on the third floor. So then trying to bring prisoners back and forth to get questioned is difficult. It's kind of right around town hall and everyone's just coming in as they bring some random person in to be questioned. It's just not great for them. It's not great for the town hall staff and the public. It just makes more sense. And there's a reason why every other community has a separate facility. If every community was like, oh yeah, we just do it together at town hall, I'd be like, oh, I might be doing something wrong here. But every other community takes theirs and has a separate space for their police department. It just seems to make the most sense to do it that way.
Speaking with the mayor of West Springfield, William Reichelt, who's running for re-election tomorrow. Your opponent, Daniel O'Brien, thinks that the Big E, which is housed in West Springfield, the Eastern States Exposition, the biggest New England fair, it's our equivalent of a state fair, really, but with multiple states, should be paying more into the city of West Springfield. And I'm sure a lot of services of the city of West Springfield go towards making sure the Big E is well-run and safe. West Springfield was receiving MGM casino mitigation money that will run dry. I know you've been able to use some of that money to punch off a couple of wish list items that, unexpected money that wasn't part of the actual tax rolls. Do you think going to the Big E will help to fill that gap? Do you think going to the Big E to ask for more money is a good idea, or is this just a pipe dream of your opponent?
I think that, for one, this is a pipe dream, pandering to folks during an election year. Everyone loves – the Big E's an easy target. You see the money they make every year when they put the Big E on. That everyone loves to talk about the executive salaries, and that gets everyone riled up in the community. The Big E itself is a huge asset, not just to West Springfield, but to the region. They generate over $1 billion worth of revenue for not just West Springfield, not even just the Pioneer Valley, but the knowledge corridor, really, from Hartford up to Northampton and beyond. I will say we do have that Big E Trust, which was negotiated. Again, I think, in elementary school back in 95. He was on the job back then. But They pay 1% to extend the fair from 15 days or from 12 days to 17 days. That was
1% of their overall
1% of their overall
gross?
gross.
Okay.
Yeah, overall gross. So this past year they paid us, I think it was $400,000 into the Biggie Trust, and then 25% of that payment we give out, myself, the president of the Biggie, and a member of the community, which all sit on the Biggie Trust committee. We're all trustees of the Biggie Trust. Give out 25% to veterans groups, senior groups, youth groups, all new uniforms, all kinds of good stuff that happens in the community. And the rest goes into the trust. And the idea was when they created this trust that it would build the $25 million and then you could use the assets of the trust to do other things in the community. I do think, and the president of the Biggie and I agree, that we need to look at restructuring that so that there's about $4 million in there now. And again, they're paying us around $400,000 a year to use that. And ideally, this is how I hope to pay for some of the new police station, is to pierce the trust to use some of that funds as a startup cost to do the police station, and then restructure how those payments work so that some of it can come in to be used as infrastructure, so that the Biggie does have an impact on the community. And they do pay for their police, for their fire, for their public safety services separately. But then we could use some of that money to offset other projects throughout the community that they impact, and we also generally would benefit. You know, there could certainly be a case made for, it's been 30 years. We can look at whether or not that 1% is still fair. But if that's where my opponent thinks we should be, he's had 10 years to ask for an audit, to ask for these things to move forward, and he hasn't. So that's where I go back to, yes, it's a nice election issue, but there's no real plan or meaning behind how that's going to be impactful. And just saying 2% means he doesn't understand how that trust works, because this 2% flowing into the trust doesn't benefit us. It doesn't help offset any costs. It's not able to be used for anything. And to get the trust to change, all parties have to agree and then go before a judge, and a judge has to agree. So again, just saying 2% doesn't get you to the end goal if the end goal is to have more funds to benefit the community. And that's an extra $400,000, even if it was 2%, isn't going to lower taxes.
Not to keep going back to allegations launched by your opponent, but another one of his critiques in general for his move back to 2-year terms is to get big politics out of local politics, or big backing out of local politics. Who are you backed by?
I look forward to his answer for that.
Where this is, where are you seeing that sort of influence? Like, have people approached you for this?
All my OCPF is the state campaign finance arm, and all my donations are public. Like, all my stuff has been public, unlike my opponent, who has been spending money throughout the summer, allegedly his own money, but didn't disclose anything until OCPF told him to about 2 weeks ago, and changed his treasurer. Treasurer didn't have training. His treasurer's out attacking people on social media. So I've been transparent the whole time. Like, yes, it costs money to run for office. Signs aren't cheap. Ad buys aren't free. The local record charges money for their ads in the paper too. And I don't think the expectation on any politician should be you got to pay out of your own pocket to run for office. You should, and I think donations and campaign events help show, have the support of the community to run. So I don't know where he comes from with that. I mean, I have had people that have maxed out the donations over the years. I hold usually one, like October, I'm German, Oktoberfest fundraiser every year. I occasionally hold it at the Irish Cultural Center, which I don't know how that mixes.
We all get along.
But
it's very Appalachian of you.
Yeah, so I don't know where that's coming from. I think it's just, again, it's politics. It's an election year. It's an issue to grab onto, but he's shown no evidence or facts behind it. It's just another allegation launched in the social media sphere.
Another thing that he's brought up a lot is taxes are a big issue everywhere. Costs in general are rising, but cities don't grow by seniors. Like, cities grow with young families coming in. So where in this next term of yours do you see trying to create a balance between those older residents you have that you want to stay and bringing in and keeping younger families that will become those older families giving taxes to the city?
I think part of that is, again, we go back to education, and it's making sure, when young families, and again, I'm born and raised West Side, so I can't say I looked other places, but when folks move in, like my parents, my mother's from West Springfield, my father's from Central Connecticut, his family moved around. My grandfather actually ran the power plant that's now offline way back in the day. But they came back to West Springfield partly because the schools are good. Like, my mother was from here, but also, like, instead of moving like to Longmeadow or another community that has good schools, they moved to West Springfield because West Springfield was more affordable and had comparable schools. And I think that is a key to make sure we continue. When we talk about investing, we talk about taxes, like where that money's going, like not spending unwisely, but when we're investing in the schools and showing that those scores improve, new families are going to come here. At the same time, we, like everyone, have a housing crisis, and making sure that we're looking and finding ways to build more housing. So, attracting, whether they be, and I keep talking about like workforce housing or starter homes, really. We don't have a lot of that in town. We don't have a lot of places for seniors to downsize to, which means we don't have a lot of more affordable homes for new families to come into. They don't want to buy a $750,000 McMansion. Maybe they do eventually when they have their second or third kid, but not when they're just starting out.
Buy a better constructed home, people.
So it's trying to balance all those things. And part of us, one of our challenges are we don't have a lot of land to grow into. We're surrounded by the 5 other cities. We're mostly built out, but it is trying to find a mix of new ideas, and whether they be condos or apartments, trying to bring nicer places in for people to start into and then grow into or downsize into. So it is a balance, and I do think, and I mentioned it before, I understand when you're on a fixed income and even a 2% increase can be a lot, but it is trying to balance how we're spending that money, because we do want to make sure we're continuing to invest in the community, because if we don't, then people aren't going to come here. They're not going to buy your house. You're not going to be able to put your house up for sale. Like, we only have like a dozen houses for sale right now. Like, people are not running away from West Side. They're desperate to get into West Side, and they just can't because there's not enough for sale.
And the West Side we speak of is West Springfield. And we're speaking with the current mayor of West Springfield, William Reichelt, who's running for re-election tomorrow. Another area of contention between you and your opponent has to do with the budget. He would like to see the budget, quote, level funded, which you have said would cause major problems. Can you explain your take on why you don't think level funding the budget is advisable?
So when we, and again, I look forward to his answer on this, because I'm not sure he understands what level funding the budget means. So
he does vote on the budget every year, though, correct?
Yes. He's been in the council 10 years, and he's always voted in favor of the budget.
Okay.
My budget. Like, a level service budget is continuing the services we have without increasing. So generally looking at next year, projecting out, and this is just kind of general, we don't know what's happening with local aid or state funding, anything else. The budget just with salaries is going to go up 4% because we have unions that have negotiated 3% COLAs, then they have step raises. All of this has been voted on by the council, including my opponent. And salaries are 80% of the budget. Overall, with everything else, it's going to go up about $6 million. And again, $6 million is the budget of the fire department. Mm-hmm. So if you want to cut to be level funded, so level service is absorbing all those costs. Level funded means, let's say the budget's at $130 million. It goes up next year to $136. We cut it back down to $130 to stay at $130. That's level funded. And again, $6 million, the budget of the fire department, you can't just close the fire department. You'd have to cut out from every department across town. Every department would have severe limitations in services. It's about 60-ish employees would have to be cut out of the budget. So if you kind of go across every department, like 30 teachers, 5 firefighters, 5 police officers, 10 general staff from town hall. I don't want to say we'd figure it out. The government would continue to function, but it would be severely limited. You'd be handicapping yourself trying to move forward. And I think it would be very hard to sell West Side as a community to come move to when services are decimated. You'd have no youth sports programs. You'd have no after-school programs. You would have a severely limited police force patrolling the streets, a severely limited ambulance. We would go back to having one ambulance and having to share with other communities. It would be like when we started 10 years ago and tried to add all these things, it'd be taking everything away.
An ongoing question amongst, I think, basically every community that we've had this conversation with candidates with is about transparency of the office. Do you feel that there are ways to improve your communication with your constituency?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always ways we can improve. And I think Mint and Egg was a great lesson that I learned in how we could do more to get out into the community and have conversations. Like,
Mint and Egg is not a snack that you're saving for later. It is the school that we were talking
and
about
it's a park.
before.
It's a part of town.
Yeah.
They're putting things out into the record on social. Not everyone is everywhere. So trying to be more of where they are and what I want to do next year, if I'm lucky enough to be reelected tomorrow, is have more neighborhood forums. So if we're in the Mitteneg neighborhood, if we're in the Tatham neighborhood, Memorial, wherever it is, and I actually just last week met with myself, some of the mayors, the DOT, the new interim director came out with some of the staff. We just sat in a small room, tables in the front and chairs, and it was a much more cozier atmosphere than, say, having a public meeting where we're all up on the dais and the school committee or town council. And not that it's confrontational, but it's more formal, where this would be more your kitchen table or your living room or whatever, and having a conversation. Doing more of that and just having an agenda of kind of what I would like to talk about, but also like what everyone else want to talk about, and not have to be so adhered to like the open meeting rules and everything. I think we do great with social media, with Flash Vote. We have a survey program that we do monthly. We do all kinds of stuff now. I think one thing we could do better is more of those conversations, because if people come in, or if I'm out in the public or I'm at an event, I can do that one-on-one, or we can do it when they come in. But trying to do it at a larger scale, I think, is one thing we could do better on what I hope to do better on in the next 4 years.
There are two questions I ask my kids every night before they go to bed. What's something you did today that you're proud of? And what's something you're most looking forward to about tomorrow? I ask you, Mayor William Reichelt of West Springfield, who's running for re-election tomorrow. In the 10 years you have been mayor, and you got to be specific. I make my kids be specific too. What is the thing that you are proudest of in your time as mayor? And what is the thing that you are most looking forward to if you are to continue to be mayor?
That is hard in 10 years, but the one I would go with, and it's one I've been talking about over the course of the campaign,
is the Mass Live Readers Raves poll.
Thank you. No, it wasn't going to be that, but I'm glad you brought it back up. It was going to be our downtown. And I say our downtown despite the improvements we made in public safety, adding police, fire, school achievement, everything that we've done over the past 10 years. I talk about the downtown for one, because it's very visible. You can go right down to Elm Street and Route 20 and see, the roundabout, the beautification, the new businesses that are down there. But I say that too because 10 years ago, I talked about improving our downtown, making it more like Northampton, West Hartford, having a place that people wanted to go to. They could get coffee, hang out, and then we made that happen. And it shows that when you have a vision and you talk about it and you work towards it, you can make real things happen. And then you win Reader Raves 3 years in a row.
And what are you most looking forward to about your next term, assuming you win tomorrow, Mayor Reichelt?
Again, hard to pick one thing because we have the police station we're going to build, the new Fawsey School we're going to build, Main Street will be repaved, Memorial Ave will be completed, Riverdale will be completed. But I would say overall, it's expanding that vision of the downtown out towards the rest of the community. So as we do Main Street and Union Street, they have the bones of an incredible not downtown in a similar sense, but there's a ton of like the Taste of Lebanon, Victory Mart, a ton of authentic restaurants, and it's where we're a very diverse community in the sense that we have 65 different languages spoken in our high school, and a lot of the folks that are new Americans come to West Side and live in Merrick, Memorial. So improving those neighborhoods that we have tens of millions of dollars invested through infrastructure, bringing everything back to life is going to be like what we did on Elm and Route 20, not just with the roundabout, but with everything, is going to be a great goal over the next 4 years and beyond.
As somebody who doesn't live in West Springfield, I am grateful for that roundabout because it was very hard to get on 20 before.
And I'm grateful for when Riverdale Street is done because I think everyone who drives on 91 will be grateful for that.
Yes.
Yes. Mayor William Reichelt of West Springfield, good luck on Election Day tomorrow. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, we'll hear from Reichelt's opponent for this mayoral contest, current councilor at large Dan O'Brien.
But first, a bit of a palate cleanser before we pelt you with more politics.
Mr. Universe Salman Hamid hops into the story of that time he got to see a solar system being born next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Real Pickles, a worker-owned cooperative in Greenfield, producing organic fermented vegetables sourced from Northeast farms. More information at realpickles.com.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Time for some more kitchen table astronomy with Hampshire College astronomer and the head of Kainat Studios, Dr. Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe. One thing that I love to do is any night look up into the night sky and see the stars and remind myself that every single star I see is a message from another time. It's like a time machine. While the light is hitting us all at the same time, this star over here on the left might have left 4 light years ago, and this star over here on the right might have left 20 light years ago, but it's all reaching us right now. This is how astronomers can look back in time.
Yes, and so that's a time machine part is really crucial. In fact, you might say that we are cursed because we cannot see the present.
Right.
Because anything, including Monty, I'm looking at you, and the reflection of light that is coming from you, it's taking a finite amount of time.
Right.
Right.
The light speed between you and I is negligible, but there. And so
anything that you see, including the sun, that is 8 minutes old. So in some sense, we cannot see the present, but this allows us to track things in the past. If we are trying to understand, and this is one of the big things for astronomers, trying to understand the origins, and it's for humanity as such, but about the origins of our own solar system. And our solar system formed about 4.6 billion years ago. We cannot go back and look at our own solar system. So this is also a problem because we cannot go back in that time machine to see our own origins, but we can look at other star systems that are being formed, and we can guess from there. This is the type of thing that might have happened in our own star system. So a couple of months ago, there's a study that came out that looked at a really new star being born. Its name is HOPS 315, and it's a yellow dwarf star. It's going to become like the sun, but it's just being born. It's actually surrounded by gas and dust. And this is how it happened in our own solar system. When our sun formed, it formed in a nebula, and around it there were other stars being formed as well. And out of that, there was a protoplanetary disk, which is protoplanetary again. So this is sort of like, the new planets being formed. Out of that disk became the planets. All the planets that are in the solar system formed out of that. Mm-hmm. But that was 4.5 billion years ago. If you want to look at it just to investigate, but can we look at what the conditions were? You look at another star system, which is like our sun, in this protoplanetary phase, and we try to see, okay, can we see the earliest planets being formed? So astronomers have detected some big planets being formed, so like really in the disk. But this is the first time that astronomers have detected, I would say, the seeds of planets being formed. So this particular system, HOPS 315, it's like our sun. It is about 1,300 light years away. So meaning to say, when we are looking at it, the light started 1,300 years ago, which for star times, that's actually negligible.
Yeah,
it's like
pretty
right
close
now.
by.
But here is the thing. This system, this HOPS 315, is only 100 to 200,000 years old.
Which is crazy because look at how old our solar system is, and then look at how old the universe is. What is it, 14.8 billion years?
13.8.
13.8.
But give or take a billion, who cares? But here is the thing. So 100,000 to 200,000 compared to the life scales of these kind of stars, like our sun, for example, where we are talking about billions of years, 4.5 billion years. This is like right in the beginning. This is
It's a baby.
It's a baby. So James Webb Space Telescope looked at it, and it detected elements in it which gave a signature that it looks like something is solidifying. These are the crystalline structures, or sort of like the early seeds of that are going to turn into planets. And in particular, it detected silicon monoxide. Then there is another telescope, which is ALMA, which is in Chile. That also then took an image of it in sub-millimeter range of light, and it actually imaged that, and you can see here is a gaseous environment, and within it a star is there. Around it there is a disk, and usually there is so much material around the disk that you cannot see any of this kind of material. It's hard to see, but that particular star is a little bit inclined with respect to us, and we can see a little bit of a gap in it, and it is those gaps in which planets usually form. I mean, they clear out some space as well. So this is the first time that astronomers have detected these, you can think about these hot minerals condensing. And this is what we are finding, that this is the earliest that astronomers can trace the formation of planets, the beginning of the formation of planets. And this is only 100 to 200,000 years old system.
Why is it called hops? It loves beer.
Probably, and it's a little slow over there. No. So hops, actually, this is interesting. So this is the Herschel Orion Protostar Survey. And so, okay, so that's a big name. Astronomers are
This is a good name for astronomy. Most astronomy names kind of terrible. Hops?
Yeah,
I'm for it.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So this was there was a European Space Agency telescope called Herschel, and it worked in the infrared. And in fact, for a while, it was the largest infrared observatory in space until James Webb Space Telescope supplanted it. And that was, I think, I think it retired in 2013. So it worked from 2009 to 2013, and because infrared can actually see through gas and dust. That's the reason James Webb Space Telescope is really good as looking at these star-forming regions, because it can go deeper into those clouds, whereas for optical light, it actually stops. So that's part one of it. But HOPS survey was actually, it actually looked at large sample of these protostars in the same cloud. Mm-hmm. So this is actually not in the Orion Nebula, but there's a cloud nearby, it's called molecular clouds. There are all these new stars forming because stars don't form by themselves. You have a stellar nursery. That's the kind of place where the sun formed, and there were other siblings there. We don't know where it went because over the period of time, over 4 billion years, they spread out. But when they're forming, you form hundreds of, usually a few thousand stars in those gaseous nebulae. So this particular survey is just looking at one particular cloud, so you know that overall conditions are similar. You know that overall roughly the age of the cloud is similar. You know what the composition is, but then it is looking at these protostars being formed, and they are analyzing it from multiple telescopes. So this is HOPS 315. As you can imagine, there are hundreds of protostars in this particular cloud.
Because this is the 315th, using the HOPS method that they have found.
Right. And what I love about this, so this is where the appreciation of what astronomers do and how we try to solve problems, right? I mean, so they're trying to figure out, okay, so how did our solar system form? And so you don't go look at one star, I'm going to just look at one. No, so here is a group of over a few hundred protostars, and all of these protostars are in just one gas cloud, which is about 1,300 light years away. And there are, as you can imagine, hundreds of gas clouds like that in our own galaxy, or thousands of them. And of course, there are a few 100 billion galaxies. So we're not talking about that. We're just talking about this one gas cloud. But the other story that I love about this is that the telescope was named Herschel. William Herschel was the one who actually had a telescope he built. He had the largest telescope in the late 18th century. He and his sister Caroline worked together. He actually is the discoverer of the planet Uranus.
Nice.
There you go. I thought you...
You always say it that way instead of the fun way.
And using his telescope, and when he discovered it, he wanted to actually call it the Georgian star.
But he's like, but you know what would be hilarious?
Hold on. But why Georgian star?
Because he's from Georgia?
No, he's in England, but for King George III.
Oh.
And I would say, boo!
Yeah,
USA! Because this is 1781.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yes.
So he named it after a part of your body instead. To try to show what he thought about King George.
But the reason why he and his sister, his sister doesn't get that much credit, but Caroline Herschel, he was appointed as the court royal astronomer, and she was still the assistant to him. And so she actually assisted him throughout, and she was paid as well. And in some sense, Caroline Herschel actually became the first woman to be paid as an astronomer. Uh-huh. And that is back in 1780s. So that's kind of cool. But he used his telescope to look at various nebulae. Anything that he saw, those were not stars, those were fuzzy and things like that. So at that time, we didn't know that some of these things are actually galaxies. So the notion that you have galaxies like the Milky Way, separate island universes as they were called, that was in the 20th century. But he was just looking at these things and said, well, this looks like fuzzy thing. Here is a gas. Now we know some of them were star-forming regions. Some of them were galaxies themselves. And he identified about over 2,400 nebulae. And what is really cool about this is just think about it that a few hundred years ago, I mean, we had no clue. He's the guy who comes in and goes like, here is a wonderful telescope, to which he actually ground the mirror and all of that stuff. That process was really fascinating because you had to not stop. And so he would actually, I think at one point he had to keep on grinding the mirror for about almost a day. And his sister fed him sort of like, at his mouth because you could not stop doing that.
Like literally creating a mirror.
Creating a mirror. And it was a big sized mirror. It was the largest telescope at the time. But just think about it. A couple of hundred years ago, in 1780s, he identifies here are all these fuzzy things in the sky, these stars. I mean, he didn't know what was the nature of those, but here are these fuzzy things. They look like cloudy, gassy. And then we find out, well, okay, some of those are actually star-forming regions. Those are the regions where new stars are forming. Those are stellar nurseries. And then we come out in the 21st century and we go in one of the clouds, let's look at not just the big cloud itself, but within those clouds, we can identify several hundred protostars, where these disks around them which are just beginning to form planets. And now James Webb, with the help of James Webb Space Telescope and ALMA, which is the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile, we actually look at it and we go now we have identified within the disk some of the first material that is condensing out of that, which is going to form planets. And we are looking at this star only 100 to 200,000 years after it was formed. This is just an amazing achievement, amazing story of when people say, well, what's the point of astronomy? Just think about how we try to figure out our own origins and the way we have tried to put stories together. So sometimes people also come up and say, well, science says one thing today and one thing tomorrow, it always changes in mind. No, you can actually see how Herschel didn't know what those gaseous nebulae are or the true nature of those. Now we know which ones are forming stars, and within it, if they are forming stars, we should be able to find protostellar disks, which we do, and if they are forming protostellar disks, we should be able to find some of the material that is the seeds that will turn out to be the seeds of the planets. That is how science works. I just love the fact that this HOPS survey is just looking at these protostars, hundreds of them in just one gas cloud in the Orion constellation, which you can see these days as the winter is coming. It's the most prominent constellation. Orion Nebula is there, but surrounded by this broad Orion molecular cloud.
So next time you have a beer, think of hops and think of the wonderful birth of this early solar system that we get to witness thanks to the ingenuity of astronomy.
And I should just add that alcohol, the molecules have also been observed in gas clouds out in space. So
even space is brewing beer.
BEERRUN.
Really?
Love this song.
Up next, we head back into the political fray to hear from the challenger seeking the seat of mayor in West Springfield, current councilor at large Dan O'Brien.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering in-person and online graduate programs in public policy and data analytics. Admissions now open at umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Comfort Bagel, scratch-made artisan sourdough bagels, spreads, and sandwiches for breakfast or lunch on Main Street in Westfield and at their new location in Holyoke at 92 Race Street. ComfortBagel.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are joined by the challenger for mayor of West Springfield, Daniel O'Brien. Biographical information online about the candidate is somewhat scarce, but Daniel O'Brien is a former police captain in the city of West Springfield. And he's currently an at-large city councilor in the city. He's been on the council for about a decade.
What's it been like being on council for West Springfield?
Well, council was a great place to start. I really had an impression of what the council was, and once I got there, and you really need to spend a couple of years to fully understand the processes and how things are done, how things are moved, the parliamentary actions. But after a couple of years, you start to get your feet under you and you understand there's big times of the year that are important, particularly budget time, and there's big issues that come up where you're going to be voting on zone changes or things that affect the community. So there's a lot of work that goes into preparing for that. The final vote is the last part of it. It's the discussion. It's getting in touch with the people impacted and really trying to understand what exactly I've learned the rule of unintended consequences. So when you make a decision, I try now to forecast out what's it going to impact. Besides, this decision is going to affect this and this and this, and try to take that into the full decision when I make it.
I mentioned in the intro that there was somewhat sparse information about you biographically online. What do you want to tell us about yourself? Lifelong West Springfielder, is that true?
I am a lifelong West Springfielder. Grew up in the Merrick section, which is the oldest section of town, where it's always been and was, in my case, the where new arrivals came. My grandmother and grandfather come from the Middle East, and they settled there in the early 20s and opened a store. My mother is currently the oldest living and grew up in West Springfield, resident in town, and they give you a golden cane as a result of that.
How old is she?
She is 98.
Wow.
Soon.
Congratulations to your mom.
Thank you. Fast approaching 99.
Nice.
So every day is a blessing with her. I went to a small Catholic school at the top of my street, so I walked to school.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah, and I went to the Main Street Park in the summer and the Boys Club in the winter, and it was just a giant triangle I lived in. When I got on the police force, I had really never been north of West Springfield. I needed a map in order to find, when I would be sent someplace, I had a map, which I still have on the back of a clipboard, that I would have to look up where the street was, because I went to Cathedral High School in Springfield, so I spent all my formative years there driving around. And so did a year, prep school year at Wilbraham Munson. I went to Middlebury College in Vermont for a year, and then I transferred to UMass Amherst. I had 100 minuscule, meaningless jobs from about 22 to 26, and then started thinking that I never thought I could get on the police department. I thought it was some magical, mysterious way. I didn't know you just had to take a test. I was a little behind the curve. Fortunately, I got on the police department, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I absolutely loved being a policeman, and I loved being a policeman in my hometown particularly. Many times I was assigned to the area that I grew up in because I knew everybody there. So I'm married for 33 years. I have 3 daughters that are all out of the house, educated, have their jobs. And I've been 10 years ago, I ran for the city council, not thinking much of it, just wanting to see if I could do it. And I found that I very much like the city council. It's just that the city council in our form of government literally has no power unless you have 9 people that can barely get along with each other, but will come together on specific issues, because you're 1/9 of a group, and you have to be able to either convince or talk someone out of a vote. But many times, unfortunately, they're in a small town, they all know each other and they know the administration, and you get a lot of votes that are just reflexive yes votes because they don't want to go against the mayor because he's a friend of theirs. So I don't think the city council is used in the way it should be used. It should be a check and balance. I prefer Westfield, which has a strong council and a weak mayor. So the mayor has to sell his things to the council, and they have a lot more power and a lot more influence in making sure things are the way they want them to be for the city, because city councilors answer to the citizens directly.
Does that key into your idea about moving the mayoral term back to 2 years?
Absolutely, it does. I came in 10 years ago. The current mayor came in 10 years ago. He started as a 2-year mayor. Very receptive, very easy to work with. If you had a problem, you could take it to him. He would work with you, which I can call it an experiment. We went to 4 years, and I have found the experiment has failed because it's moved him. Once you're in there and you're not running every other year, you're not running on what you did the year before. You're not accountable responsible for the decisions made, and people forget. There was very unpopular things that have happened, but as you live your busy life, you don't remember what happened 3 or 4 years ago. But if you have to run on what you've done the year before, you're going to be more accountable. You're going to want to give the time to people to explain things, and you're not going to try to just rush things through. Like we would get proposals later on in the 4-year term, and he'd want to vote on the next session on something that we should have got 2 months ago, because it took a lot of time to vet and it took a lot of time to talk to people. Sometimes we would make a vote and the people would come in after the vote was made and complain that they didn't want that. But the process was so fast, they never even got a chance to come in and speak to it. So the 4-year term has also solidified the bureaucracy. You create an echo chamber to yourself, and everyone knows that you're the boss and that you're going to be there, and they start tailoring their actions to please you. And that's what we're in now. We have a bureaucracy set up that answers to him, but we're on the outside of that bureaucracy.
What about the notion that it becomes difficult to get projects done if you know that you're constantly campaigning, or if the people that are in the different city departments don't know if you're going to be there to see the project all the way through?
Well, every mayor that comes in with projects already in line, already happening. So that's the constant, is the department heads and those groups that are working on that project as it's happening. And it's simply, they have their own inertia, most projects do. Once they're started, the mayor's not hands-on every day making sure the project's going. It's going, and the people responsible for it are the ones that are actually managing and shepherding it through. It's not the mayor doing that.
We're speaking with Dan O'Brien, who's a candidate for mayor of West Springfield. Election day is tomorrow. One of your main issues is the attempt to keep open a community school, Mitten Egg. The mayor is not in favor of doing this. You are in favor of doing this. Tell us why you think that school should remain open and how the city would afford to be able to keep it open.
So that issue came up last election cycle, 2023. They had meetings. The school committee put together a group that was meeting on it. They didn't file any minutes in that, and they had it in the summer. So the election happened, and then November, December of that year, they made an announcement that they're closing the school. It caught everybody that lives in that neighborhood off guard. They were very upset about it. They voiced their opinions, and they felt that they were being ignored. They found out how to do a citizen's petition, a ballot drive, which at the time was very difficult to do. You had to have 20% of the people that had voted. There was very strict rules on what the form was. Anyway, they got the thing going. They had 19 days to get 2,500 signatures, which is nearly impossible. In the middle of the winter, and they did the impossible. They got 2,700 signatures, which forced the school committee and the mayor to have to take a vote on whether to keep the school open or to put it on the ballot. They voted to keep the school open. In the same instant, as they voted to keep the school open, they immediately pivoted and started talking about building a brand new school in an area that they had never spoken about before, a school that is in another section of town, and stopped talking about Mitten Egg School. And they haven't talked about Mitten Egg School for 2 years. So my premise is you voted to keep the school open. So now you've made the commitment to keep the school open. You can't ignore it. And what they've done is take the population that should be going there from kindergarten to populate the school and diverted them to another school so that there's only a small amount of kids left in that school. I believe they didn't want to create another group of parents that were committed to that school. But the bottom line is West Springfield is a community that's built around neighborhood schools. Each neighborhood has its neighborhood school, which gives it a unique character that people buy their homes based on that, and they want their kids in that small, intimate environment. That's what they said they wanted, and the mayor immediately pivoted to the superintendent and the school committee and disregarded that whole ballot. I would have said, well, that takes care of that. Tomorrow, we start planning on the rehabilitation of Mitten Egg School. And they say, well, it's too old. I said, well, it's in terrible shape. It's in terrible shape because they haven't done anything with it for 20 years, so of course it's going to be in terrible shape. But at the same time, he wants to build a new police station. This new school they want to build will have to be, portions of it will have to be bonded. So you're looking at roughly $100 million in bonding if they go the way he wants to go. I'm saying take $25 million right up, put it right into that school. Once you get that school in a certain shape, then you can apply for MSBA funds for roofs, windows, doors, just like Springfield does. Their schools are older, and Holyoke and Springfield have qualified for repair and refurbishment. They just don't want to do it, is the thing. And they're saying they can't do it. And then last week he said, I want to rehabilitate the old Cowing School built in 1915. I want to turn it into senior housing. That's like 4 Mitten Egg schools. It's in the same shape. You're going to have to do the same thing to it. But how come you can do that, but you can't fix Mitten Egg School? That's the part I don't understand. It can be done. They said it would cost $19 million. I'm willing to invest 25 in that school, 25 in Memorial School, 25 in Tatum School, and 25 in Fawsey School. And the schools will all be refurbished and up and in shape. Once bonding comes off on other things, that's how bonding works. You don't bond everything. High school will come off, this will come off, and so you always have a certain level of bonding. So he's making it seem like the taxes are going to go crazy. They're not, because you're going to bond too. You have to bond to do the things you want to do. Only the bonding I want to do is going to cause the taxes to go up.
Does West Springfield have the youth population to keep all of those schools open?
We had school choice. West Springfield's student population was declining, but we are also the refugee center for Western Mass. So where the decline was is not a decline anymore. Now we are pressed for space. So you have the districting is the thing where they redrew the entire Middle East with a pencil after World War I, and they're making it seem like redistricting is impossible to do. You simply draw the lines so that you're capturing the neighborhoods expanding or shrinking in order to balance out the schools. But the population will certainly fit in the schools, and if you do the reconstruction right, you can have the space for kindergarten where then you can officially close the John Ashley School, which is just kindergarten now. So there's your savings in a building, but you can, when you restructure the schools, you build in to handle the kindergarten.
Another thing that you brought up was the new police station. You are a former police captain.
Correct.
But the former police captain is not in favor of a new police station. That's curious. Tell us why you think that the city of West Springfield doesn't need a new police station.
I didn't say it didn't need it. I said there's a priority list of things. If the schools are the priority, then the police are public servants and they have children and they understand that the schools are the priority. The police station is not like a fire station. You don't live in a police station. You come in, you go to roll call, you get your orders, you go on the road, you come back with an arrest or you come back for an administrative thing. But a policeman's job is on the street, at least when I was working. You didn't hang around the police station. What are you doing here? You would be asked, and get out on the road and do your job. The police station as it is, what it needs is new equipment. It needs new computers, new printers, the stuff that you're actually using to do your work. I would have no problem investing in that. But my vision is simply different. They bought the Walgreens drugstore next door to build a police station because they claim that the air quality in the basement of the police station is bad and there's mold. But I've also pointed out that the basement for the police station is the same basement for the entire town hall. So is the black mold and bad air just hovering under the police station, or is the entire town hall being affected with black mold and poor air quality? And what have you done to mitigate that? Have you done anything to go in and correct that problem? Because that's affecting everybody in the town hall. So,
well, what about the mayor's claim that there aren't sufficient locker rooms, shower rooms, especially for like an all-female outfit that may be coming on shift at the same time?
Unless things have changed, when I worked, you came to work dressed, number one, in your uniform. You're not taking a subway like on TV. They take a subway, they go to work and they change and they do all that stuff at work. You come to work dressed, you work and you go home. The female officers have the same bathroom facilities as everyone who works on the first floor of the municipal office building. They use the same bathroom. So it's not like the bathroom's antiquated or it's terrible or not kept up. But my small scale solution is once the schools are done, I would take the entire first floor of the municipal office building and renovate that as the police station. That you would add in everything you need right there for this renovation and what they need. I would take the entire school department, which houses the first floor and across the street, and put them in Walgreens. You can build out office space much cheaper than you can, anything else. So have the school department and its associated offices all in one building and let the police station have the entire first floor.
Speaking with Dan O'Brien, candidate for mayor of West Springfield, the election day is tomorrow.
You've also talked about making the Big E a much better and more integrated partner for the city. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, that's always been the dream, is to have the Big E be a better partner. 30 years ago, when they went from 12 days to 17 days, they entered into an agreement with the selectmen at the time that they would give 1% of their take as to give back to West Springfield for the inconveniences caused during the Big E. They never put in a clause that said we're going to reopen this every 5 years and see if maybe we require more money. Things have gone up in 30 years. So that money that we do get is directly put back into sports teams. I have a proposal to the mayor that the American Legion needs $17,000 to redo their kitchen. You can give that kind of a grant to a organization from the Big E Trust. All I'm saying is it's time to open that up and say, hey, Big E, how about you give us another %? The problem that I see is he's too close to the Big E to even have that discussion. He won't bring it up with them. He's been in office 10 years, and he hasn't asked them to increase it. I simply want to say, let's open this up. Let's make you look good, Big E, by offering us another %. You get all the credit you can have, but we need to have that money to put back into the community because we've lost the MGM mitigation funds. The state said, you can't have those anymore because we have such a gigantic hole in our budget. We're taking all that money and we're going to plug holes in our budget with it. The cities and towns are on their own. That was very important money to have.
Is it just the Big E money? Because it's not like the Eastern States Exposition, like that space is open year round and they have events all year round. Are they only paying for the time of the Big E because there's such that big influx as opposed to like their year-round operations?
Yes, it's directly associated with the 17 days, for the traffic, for the businesses that are impacted because people won't go down to that end of town. If you live in town, you're not going anywhere near the place. So, yes, it directly impacts there. And during the year, they have different shows, but they're a different volume of traffic, a different impact. So it's simply to say, look, it's time to give us another 1%. We can do so much good with that, and it benefits the Big E too.
Another big issue, Daniel O'Brien, candidate for mayor of West Springfield, that you brought up is the budget in general. And you say that you want to level fund the budget for next year. The mayor says that would amount to a $6 million cut, essentially, overall, because of the amount of money that you have to pay to keep up with COLA, cost of living adjustments, and other different things that are contractually obligated for the city to do. You have voted on, as far as I know, and approved all of the mayor's budgets for the time that he has been mayor and you have been on council. Talk about your decision to say that you would like to level fund the budget and what that would mean if cuts needed to come through because the level funding of this year wouldn't meet the amount of money you would need to pay these cost of living adjustments for next year.
I don't understand where he comes up with the $6 million. He said it during one of our first discussions, and I still don't know where he's getting that figure from. When I say level funding, if you spent, for argument's sake, in the budget of 2025, which is operating budget 26, if you spent $100 million, already has the contracts built into it, everything that is going to be spent in 2026 is in that budget. If I say, when I put my budget measures out to the police department, to the fire department, this is what you spent last year, this is what I expect you to spend this year. Put your budget in that stays within these parameters. And it's not those departments that are causing the problem with the budget. Like I said, I've had 10 budgets in my hands. What is running the budget up and what makes the increase every year is a practice that the school committee does, and the mayor allows it. They have school choice, which we talked about. That money comes in. It's one-time money. There's, say, $3 million in there. The school committee will hire 20 teachers out of that money. So you have one-time money that they're spending on a recurring expense. 2 years later, that money starts to run out. They then say, they come to the city council in the spring on the budget and say, you have to take that $2 million into the operating budget or we'll run out of money. And the mayor allows it. Instead of the mayor saying, I suggest you don't do that you don't hire on that money because it's going to run out. He lets them do it. So all the pressure comes on to the city council to cut that money out, to say, no, you can't do that. But it never happens. But if you look, I'm the one that said, I make a motion to cut $2 million from the school department budget. And they say, why are you cutting our budget? I say, I'm not cutting your budget. I'm cutting the increase to your budget that you shouldn't have spent on out of school choice because you know it's a one-time fee. And then I don't get a second or it doesn't pass. But if you are honest and look back, I have fought against this and will continue. They did it again Tuesday night. They voted and they said in open council for them, we're going to appropriate $1.6 million for a feasibility study for the new school. And we're going to take it out of school choice so we don't have to go before the city council, which is absurd. Because you know when they'll go before the city council? Next spring, when they want us to put the $1.6 million back in that they spent. That's why the budget goes up every single year. The other departments stay within reasonable boundaries. It's the school department that is 4%, 5%, 9% every year, increase. That's why the taxes are going up. He allowed them to vote on a 15% increase 2 cycles ago, knowing that he was going to cut 1.6 of it out down to 9% and come to the council with that and thought that he could then blame us for not cutting the budget. I said, let's cut $1.6 million out of this budget. He did. Nobody said anything. Why can't I cut that out? We ended up doing 1.2. He vetoed it. And then the council allowed the veto to pass. So I've tried. It's just you can't do anything as a single councilor. But I'm saying if you're the mayor and you're sitting in with the school committee, you can caution them against doing it. They won't do it if I'm there because they'll know I'm not going to put that in the budget. If you spend the money, that's it. You're going to lose that money and it's not coming back.
Daniel O'Brien running for mayor of West Springfield. Election day is tomorrow.
Another allegation that's come up in debates is big money in politics in West Springfield. Where is that money coming from that you see for this particular race?
That is public record. The OCPF, the state, you can go right online, look up Mayor Reichelt, and you can see who his donors are, how much they give him. He has amassed $235,000 in 10 years. That puts him at about 4th in the state. West Springfield has 30,000 residents, 17 square miles. He has the 4th largest campaign chest in the entire state. That's not coming from $25 and $50 mom and pop donations. Those are $1,000. The husband gives $1,000, the wife gives $1,000, the kids give $1,000. All businesses who do business in West Springfield. I have never taken a penny in campaign funds. I'm minus $4,000 in 10 years as a city councilor, and I've spent about $3,500 of my own money on this campaign. Just today in the West Springfield Record, he spent $2,000 in ads. So my entire campaign was $3,500. If you don't think that buys influence and access in the mayor's office, I don't know what I can tell you to, you know it does in Boston, you know it does in Washington. It's happening right here in West Springfield. That kind of money buys influence, access, and favors. You'll never convince me that it doesn't. And the retail pot was a prime example of it. The voters of West Springfield voted down legalizing marijuana. So, somewhere in there you got to assume that if it passed, they didn't want it sold in West Springfield as a symbolic thing. Not talking about pot, I'm saying they simply didn't want it. When it was brought up to a vote, the people came out in numbers, said we don't want this, and we voted it down. The mayor took about $5,000 in donation or campaign contributions from the pot industry and the former city councilor in Springfield, who's a big pot proponent. And then when more councilors came in that were favorable to him, he brought the ordinance back and it passed. Well, that was strictly a quid pro quo. They paid him money. he got the thing passed for them. And we were supposed to have millions and millions of dollars. I think it cleared $300,000 last year, which doesn't cover 2 of the higher salaries in our budget. But the people of West Springfield who came out against it didn't want it, and he pushed it through anyway. So money will get you what you want there. It won't get it with me. All that money turns into zero if I'm the mayor. It has no effect anymore.
Speaking with candidate for mayor Dan O'Brien, who entered the race somewhat late, and I looked online for a campaign website, not easy to find, went on your Facebook page, and I'll bring up the elephant in the room. You were a police captain, and then the end of your tenure was, let's say, less than glorious. We don't need to relitigate all of what went on there, and you went on paid administrative leave for a couple of years. You worked within the town to come up with some sort of settlement, but there were people on your social media with concerns that you were the cop who did this. Allay the fears of people who have that kind of perspective on Dan O'Brien for mayor, that what happened in the past as a police officer that maybe tarnished your reputation as a police officer is not something you're bringing onto the council or would be bringing into the mayor's office.
That's exactly what that whole event was designed to do, was to tarnish my name, because I was a threat to the current administration as they were transitioning, wanting to pass on the chief's job to someone on the inside.
And this is not the current mayor that we're speaking about right now.
No,
this is a former mayor
it
of
is
West
not.
Springfield.
In the short run, that's the only time I've been sued in my career, 30 years. I was only sued that one time. Every policeman has that hanging over their shoulder. Any incident can be brought up. You can be charged. I was charged with everything they could imagine they could charge somebody with. They had the FBI, they had the state, they had the district attorney's office. None of them saw any merit in charging me criminally with anything. So the last gambit that a police department has, is to charge you internally, which they did. Then they tried to make it so that I would resign, and I simply would not resign. I said, I want to have my day in court. Due process is what we're all allowed. So I did not resign. Therefore, they fired me, which put me out for 3 years with no pay. Now, I'm 50 years old with 3 kids, 2 in college, 1 in high school. I have no money coming in, and it's designed to break you. It's designed to drain your bank account so that you will do anything to get back to semi-normal life. 3 years. I waited, and I got my hearing. The hearing lasted 2 days. The arbitrator said there was no basis to fire him. You had no reason to do it. He didn't violate. There was no policy to violate, and he was wrongfully terminated. Now, Springfield just got found guilty of a wrongful termination. I was in the same boat. I had $0. I could have sued the city for wrongful termination and forced them to give me my job back with a settlement and all my back pay. It wasn't the city's fault that these people had done what they did. I said, look, you owe me back pay because I've been out of work for 3 years. And they make it seem like that was a crime, that I took my back pay. And I'm qualified for the retirement because I've paid into it for 30 years. I said, but I need to get back on my feet. So I want you to pay me for a year so that I can get back on my feet. Now, if I didn't have the leverage, do you think they would have paid me for a year on and after? Of course not. But I wasn't going to sue the city. I simply needed to get my feet back under me. And then that happened in April of 15, and I decided to run for council in the fall of 15, and I was elected. So that to me was that the people of West Springfield understood, and they've elected me 5 times since then. But of course, when you run for mayor, they're going to dig up, everything you've done in your life and try to make you look like a bad person. And, that was my job. I love my job. I was very good at it. And that was just the way it went. It's not easy becoming a police captain. Back then you had to test. I tested 4 times. That's 32 months of studying. And I really loved my job, but there was nothing I could do. It was basically a political hit, and I took it and I moved on.
So in the talk about taxes for the city, you've talked about trying to stabilize something for seniors, which is like which is important and appreciated because like those folks are like a large part of the tax base. However, seniors are not where you grow a city. You grow cities with like young folks, young working folks coming in, young families coming in. So what are your ideas for trying to grow West Springfield in that way?
West Springfield is a unique location. People want to live in West Springfield, but you know, a young family has to pay taxes as well as an older family. The older family is unfortunately on a fixed income. So every $200 that taxes go up, you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do without? Because they can't go out and get a second job. They don't have the ability to have that money coming in, so that they can literally be, you know, pushed out of their house due to the taxes. A young family is looking for affordability because there's nothing more expensive than a young family. I mean, it costs, and you think, you know, people say, oh, well, pretty soon the kids will be 18. I said, that's when you start having to spend huge amounts of money on them. So it doesn't end. My kids are almost 30. I'm still spending money. So
You need to let them go.
they are gone, and they still cost me
My kids are
money.
20 and 18, and mostly I'm like,
Right, but
you're mostly done.
It's expensive.
Only the boys cost my parents money.
It's expensive living. So West Springfield, it all comes down to the taxes. If you can keep the taxes affordable, then at least you're controlling that in your budget. You can't control what Eversource is charging you. You can't control what food costs, and now I'm hearing that the governor wants to put an excise tax on the excise tax. They're scrambling to do anything they can to get more money. And I also heard that, you know, them kind of sniffing around maybe 2.5 isn't such a good idea anymore.
Meaning Proposition
Yeah.
2.5 override, 2.5% increase yearly is the most you can do without
Correct.
an override.
And that was brought in because they were pushing out 10 and 12% increases. They're starting to talk like that again because that whole generation has pretty much passed. And there's such a need for money because it's so mismanaged. I know that West Springfield, we have a CFO that is probably the best in the state. She can make things happen, and she can give you the advice and show you the areas where you have to stop increasing taxes. Taxes are getting paid on the 3rd of November. Your tax bill is due. That tax bill will not be the same tax bill you get in January of 26 because the city council has to set the tax rate for the budget we passed in the spring. Taxes are going up. We passed a budget that's 4.5% higher. If he's in office for 4 more years, it is safe to assume that there will be at least a 4% increase each year over the 4% increase that there's been over the last 4 years. You can't keep increasing taxes.
How does it go up 4% if 2.5 is the max?
It's the budget itself was 4.5% higher
Gotcha.
than the year before. So it's just it's gonna go up. People get their tax bills in January and they start yelling at the city council for raising their taxes. We didn't raise your taxes. The budget that the mayor put in the spring raised your taxes.
But you voted for it.
I voted for the overall budget. I can't not vote for the budget, but I protested the increases in the school department. You're right. I have to vote on the budget, but not. I did what I could do as one counselor to try and get the school department to stop doing what they're doing, but I failed. I've failed 10 times.
Dan O'Brien is running for mayor of West Springfield. Election day is tomorrow. Give us your final pitch why people should vote for you for mayor of West Springfield over the incumbent mayor for the last 10 years, William Reichelt, who was our guest earlier this hour.
I will work from day one on getting this budget in line so that when I present the budget to the city council in the spring, they won't have to think of or do anything. They will look at it. They will say, this is a great budget. It's keeping the amounts where they need to be. We're going to stabilize taxes. Then going into year 2, I will find the areas that I can cut that will offer some type of tax relief. That's what I'm going to do from day one. The city council will have a new relationship with the mayor where their problems will be the mayor's problems. They'll have an open door. When the constituent needs something, the city council will bring it to the mayor. The mayor and he or she will work on it, and we'll get a resolution done as fast as possible. You will see an entirely new relationship with the council because I come from the council, and I understand how important that relationship is. There'll be no money flowing into the mayor's office for favors. The Big E will pay 2%, and I'll try to find the option that'll get us at least a choice of voting on the 2-year mayoral term to get accountability back into the mayor's office.
Dan O'Brien, candidate for mayor of West Springfield, thanks so much for spending time with us today, and good luck in the election tomorrow.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I had a great time.
Oh, our pleasure.
A quick reminder that we've now spoken with 9 candidates for 4 out of the 5 towns that have a contested race for mayor this election cycle.
So you can head over to NEPM.org or your podcatcher of choice to hear our conversations with each of them and get a reminder of their issues and positions before you head to the ballot box tomorrow. And each of those conversations is longer online.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So if they didn't necessarily answer your questions to the best of our ability on the airwaves, it's definitely there in the podcast.
Yes, it's killing our darlings is something that we have to do every day for this show.
Pressed for time!
There were so many darlings we killed in the interview with the 2 candidates for mayor of West Springfield. So if you are a West Springfield voter and want more information from each of them, that will be available to you shortly after the show today.
Indeed. On the next Fabulous 413, we'll take our first official step outside of the 4 counties in the 413 with a visit to Stillman Quality Meats, which is just over the Worcester County border, but is building a facility that will aid Western Mass livestock farmers immensely. And we'll chat with Kate Stillman about the endeavor.
And Palestinian comedian Ala Shahada brings his one-man show about the resiliency and humanity of the refugee town he grew up in with The Horse of Janine, which he'll perform at the UMass Fine Arts Center this Thursday, November 6th. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. See you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.